We're joined today with someone who I've actually met in person at the Future of Protein conference in Chicago. So as a thank you to them, I'd like to hear what you learned from that conference. I actually gained a lot. There's like startup pitching. There's so much in the future of protein space. But what'd you gain from it?
Thank you very much for the invitation, Lowell. I'm very happy to see you digitally. Yeah. Thank you for the invitation. And regarding the future of protein production, I know Seb and the team, and they're doing an amazing work organizing these events. They focus on the future of protein production, alternative protein technologies. And this conference had different size of companies and different product categories. So you had like the startup pitch, but also a little bit of more enterprise related solutions. So as Proxy Foods, we participated at the startup pitch. We've been there before in the Amsterdam version they do. And during like, I think after our startup pitch, this is where we met.
hmm I think either I just walked up to your table and said, "Can I join?" Or you were walking near my table and I said, "Why don't you join us?" And then I met you and your co-founder.
Yeah, that's funny because I think you probably met first my co-founder Petros, and then you're like, "Oh, Panos is another Georgetown student," and we also had this part of bonding.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So outside of the pitching, were you like so I've never pitched at a conference before. So like generally I think a lot of people listen in and it's kind of like you do something, but do you get a result? Like, or what is it like, that type of thing? So I'm curious for someone who's lived it. You pitched at a conference at two of them, just in this conversation that we know about. What what's it like and what comes from it?
So it depends on who are you pitching and why. Most companies, the traditional pitch that refers to pitching to an investor. So companies they go and they will pitch their ideas and then they will get interest. Now in these conferences, you also pitch to potential clients, but at the same time, you also pitch to potential future team employees. So you pretty much pitch the world. So what's the outcome is like if you do a good job, people are gonna find you afterwards. They're gonna shoot you an email. They're gonna tell you, this is very interesting or this is not very interesting. Most likely, people will contact you to tell you something of interest to them, and then it's how are you going to convert. So the conferences are a great place in general to share your ideas, understand the interest of different stakeholders, understand who is going to reach out to you afterwards, and then you can do a small validation and evaluation of how you pitched, what was the interest, and if you do that systematically, you can compare with previous times to see, different patterns or trends that changed since the last time.
Yeah, makes sense. The and I think you also had one of the more better like introductory questions where you asked anyone who was like a local or new Chicago, like, hey, where do you want to go to eat afterwards? Then you'd pitch like to go with them at the same time, which was, it's like a twofer. You get to learn about the local area and, get an excuse to talk to people after a conference, which I actually think a lot of times it's the after the conference or before the conference where a lot of stuff happens. Like at the conference, it's kind of like everyone has like the professional face on, but once you're at like a dinner or you're like going for a walk outside of it, I've noticed like a lot of business starts happening where but it's like not like I very rarely do I think the person realizes like I've been at a table before and I'll just like just gently start pitching things and everyone's just kind of in a mood to be like, yeah, that's a great idea, and then they're much more likely like convert over.
Yeah, absolutely. People don't like when other people are talking to them to sell something.
Hmm.
Even if I want to buy something from you, I don't want you to sell anything to me. So in these conferences, as you said, you have the professional, but you also have a little bit of the transactional part of the communication. Now, if you break this layer and this barrier, and you go to a more, human normal kind of situation, that means that now I can share more things without having to sell or buy, and the other person is the same. So the conference is the contact point, and it's like the successful collisions in molecules. You have different particles that collide, but sometimes you have the right orientation, enough energy, and everything that this will lead to a reaction. So you mingle and you bounce out with many people. With some of them, you might have a stronger collision, and this might lead to, okay, let's go have dinner, let's go explore the city, let's go do X, Y, Z. And this is where the magic happens because you're not going to share your pain points or your ideas or anything, just in a conference. This is about of the first flirt, If you're gonna convert into a date, this is where, in the date all the magic happens, right? And the same with business and, business relations are humans. So the human psychology is very different when you're over a table for dinner than when you're wearing your suit and you're in a conference.
Yeah, exactly. It is interesting when you can kind of tell when someone's been to a number of conferences versus it's their first one, because they'll go around and be like, "Here's my card. Here's my card. Here's my card. Here's my card. Here's my card." And it's like, okay, but I don't know you as a person yet. Like, I see your nice card, but like maybe like in 2 minutes. Like, give it to me in 2 minutes. But we are kind of dancing around. I don't think we've set up Proxy Foods yet. For people listening, because I forget that I know, but other people do not. Could you tell us a little bit about Proxy?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Proxy Foods, we are an AI platform that focuses on the acceleration of product development and recipe formulation. So, we help R&D teams of food and beverage manufacturing companies or large food service companies in order to create products that they don't have to compromise things that they might have to compromise. So, we focus on how you can combine ingredients with the right processes and end up with the targeted nutritional flavor, texture profile in the region, having the regulatory compliance. So it's a toolbox for food product developers, for chefs, culinary chefs, and R&D teams in order to streamline their product development and commercialization processes.
Are you familiar with, I forget his name, but there was a man who invented, but like through selective breeding, a type of wheat which has gone on to like feed and keep about like 2 billion people.
Warlock?
Yeah, I think he's
Yeah.
yeah. But it's just like wheat. Like people always, I think in America in particular, we really take for granted going into the store and there being all these different products. But it sounds like with a platform like yours, if we were to take it back in time to the Mr. Mr. Wheat, like he'd be able to develop something even more, tailored, even more intense. And instead of like 2 billion people, maybe it's like 4 billion or 6 billion, which is my way of saying like making the point that food is really, really, really important, and this ability to selectively move something from point A to point Z. Um, where in the past it was basically just carpet bombing. You just like threw stuff out in the field and you kind of picked it out and saw how it's going. With what I'm imagining how it works on your side, you can do all that much much faster and often probably digitally.
Yeah, like, by the way, I think it's Norman Borlaug, the person you referred to. So, through genetical breeding, they managed in the same space to increase the yield. And this was a big contribution to fighting a famine around the world
Yeah.
and, combat against hunger. He's amazing. He did like a many breakthroughs regarding the crop optimization, and then now we see so much work involved with AI on crop optimization, different seeds, and how you can optimize the primary production, the yield of this thing. So, as at Proxy, we don't focus so much on the agricultural output, neither on the raw materials. We are on the value chain one step later. Okay, how can you effectively combine different ingredients or raw materials, but mostly ingredients, in order to formulate the product? So a little bit closer to the to the consumer. And now, when you want it to get the idea, let's say the marketing team says, guys, matcha is very, very successful, very popular. We need quinoa and matcha. I don't know what you'll do, but these are the specs. People now, they like high protein, they want low calories. These are the trends. Sugar is again fine, fats are again fine, but because there are these cycles. So now the food product developer, they have to go in this stage that we call, different companies call different names, but it's the ideation and the concept. When you have this part and companies talk and they end up with, after a while, with a brief. So we want this product with this specification, this nutritional value, this flavor, this shelf life, etc., etc. So something that a food product developer would do First they will see, okay, what is this ingredient? If they have or no experience, let's see competitor products. Let's see what's on the market. Let's see a few trends. They will search online recipes or other stuff. They might have existing recipes and they will start writing down some ideas. When they will do the first part, they will create something, they will try it. Now, when you create and you try something, you have to give feedback. You have to do all the nutrition analytics. You have to do the prediction of shelf life, of flavor, of texture. You have to do all the comparisons, yada, yada, yada. And then you have to take into consideration all this output. Now, this is where we come in because we have an all-in-one holistic platform. So the nutritional value input is taken into consideration from before, but also not only the nutritional aspect, but how this is going to affect the organoleptic profile. So, for example, if you add sodium chloride, this will directly change the nutrition facts table, but the presence of sodium chloride, if you have a liquid state or a solid state or semi-solid state, the presence of sodium chloride will change how people perceive flavor. Not only the saltiness, which is one of the main basic tastes, and we have the receptors, the sodium channels, etc., but also the sodium will change how we're going to perceive notes such as floral or musky or garlic. So why is this important? This is important because the nutritional value is not anymore like a checklist that you're trying, okay, we have less than 280 milligrams sodium in this serving size, or we have this protein. Now you're trying to understand this very, very complex multisensorial flavor perception where you have your taste buds, you have the odor receptors, retronasal, orthonasal, all these things that are happening, and our brain says this is good or this is bad. And this is in a combination with what consumers will think when they will read the ingredient list and they will see the amounts of sodium and everything. So product development is kind of a balloon. You push one side, you see the effect on the other side. Everything is interconnected. And in order to take all the constraints and the targets from before, this is where you need AI because you have so many data. That's why you need like a standardized data-driven solutions. Otherwise, people have everything on their mind, but there's no way they're going to remember all the flavor compounds, all the interactions, all the processing effects, all the intermediate steps that will occur in any reaction, etc. So this is where we're coming. How can you combine? How can you be proactive and not reactive?
What is there something? And if there's like, I imagine there might be like NDAs and stuff. So like, feel free to like navigate this as you will. But like, is there something that you guys have made like that something has been made with your technology that you're very proud of?
Out of many of the products. Like I'm not allowed to say product categories except the public things that we have discovered. So what we have seen is some of the things that made us really proud. Some breakthroughs in innovation around like we saw that this effect with the plant-based chicken nuggets a few years ago. We ended up having 40 different plant-based chicken nuggets, texturized vegetable protein or soy protein or pea protein, but pretty much they were all the same, like in 80% organoleptic similarity. And then you had a few breakthroughs, and you saw companies are being very scared of innovation and very scared of affiliation, and many people are kind of limited to our own very understandable human limitations and biases because we want to sometimes emulate the success of something else, but this doesn't allow for a breakthrough innovation sometimes. So you have the one breakthrough innovation, you have some people going after. Some things that made us really proud is how did you have the breakthrough in the first stage, because like there are different textures, for example. We're very used in having the the texture of for the bakery products where you have a hard shell and like a soft kind in the middle. You know, the AI and food product developers that they want to read, they thought vice versa. What if I'll have the opposite texture? What I'll do something which is very soft outside and will get, harder in the inside. And this only the game of the texture and the surprise in the mouthfeel creates some very novel products. We were very happy to see more children-related, nutritious, and delicious in the palette of children products that they combine nutrition, the right ingredients, and also an educational purpose of that. We're very proud to see a little bit more traditional products being developed in more than 50% of the reduction of time and iteration. So we saw products being developed from months to weeks.
Mhm. Yeah.
We had like experience. Yeah, sorry. Oh.
No, I was just saying, like, if you go from months to weeks, you're talking hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars, depending on the size of the organization, just in cutting down, being able to go from like an idea to, actually tasting it with people and validating it. I was just thinking out loud, but I would love to hear where you were going. Sorry.
No, 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 of course. And these are pretty much the logical benefits and advantages with AI because you don't have to do all the technical and feasibility study and all the calculation between different softwares. You might have a nutritional value software, a sensor evaluation software. You might have flavor house that will send you a proprietary flavoring that you have to incorporate. That you have the QA, QC people, regulatory, different PLM, like product lifecycle management softwares. So you have this kind of a Frankenstein kind of solutions, which doesn't allow for the breakthrough while you align with all your targets and goals. So other than the acceleration of the time, which of course is for everybody is to understand. So what we have done at Proxy, for example, we have digitized the whole regulatory framework in US and Europe and the whole regions, and this allows companies to identify and do a formulation check. Can I label it as high fiber, like for this product category, for this application? Which preservatives could they use? Which emulsifiers? Tell me previous cases, like amendments of the law. So this, of course, accelerates everything, and you have much better accuracy because you don't have to say, "Oh, now I have too much runny texture. I don't have the viscosity I want, or I have too much high levels of saturated fats or added sugars, whatever." And you have to do the refinement. You take that from the beginning, but for me personally, it's not about the acceleration. The acceleration is critical because we have this virtuous cycle that the development time is longer than the consumer trends. So they might say, guys, we need that. This might take 2 years to develop. And after 2 years, people need different things. So they're always running behind the consumer. And if you have a longer development cycle, that trend cycle, you're always going to have a lag phase, which is very important for the innovation and allow companies to have a more lean product development that will might increase to shorter product development cycles, an easier way to commercialize products, and you have more products and something might happen, and this leads to innovation. Again, for me, like the driver was the breakthrough innovation. What's going to be, the new major soda drink that we haven't thought about? What's going to be this flavor combination that is going to be more healthy, more ethically aligned, more kind, to the way we treat animals, more kind to our gut and microbiome, but it's going to have a flavor, a sensory profile that even makes us crazy. Like, have you seen the movie The Perfume or the book if you have read it?
Is it the one where the person is like squeezing people to make perfumes, like he's like eating them or something? It's not.
Not to drink them, but he's going. I think he was trying to get like the fats from specific body fat from some people to create the perfect perfume, and then release the perfume, and everybody, got like fall in love with the perfume. So that's an exaggeration to make a point that we don't know yet what we don't know, and we don't know yet what we haven't tasted and tried. And now might be sustainable, animal-free,
Yeah.
healthy solutions we haven't discovered yet. So for me, other than the acceleration, is about what's going to be the next breakthrough, how we're going to push the boundaries of our organoleptic palette and the specs of the products.
Yes. Okay. I have follow-ups. So first, could you something I'm curious about is so the skill of cooking is variable. Like some people can be good at it, some people can be bad at it, some people be mediocre. Could we use your technology to design the food to have the taste of perfectly cooked, no matter like to a degree, like you could cook it like kind of bad and it'd still come out tasting good? Could you have all the textures of something that tastes perfectly done, even if you don't know how to cook? Could you like affect that? Is that something you could do?
The short answer is no. Like
Okay.
the molecules will still follow the
Yeah.
physical and chemistry rules. So if you have something with a temperature above their melting point, it will melt, even if you
Mhm.
don't want it to melt. However, what you can do with specific combinations, you can increase the range, the margin of error.
Mhm.
Now, if we look one step ahead, how would you have the perfect dish in for you? Because you might want it a little bit burned on the edges because you like this extra bitter. Then this might be a personal preference. I think this would derive through consistency, um, both on the ingredients, the raw materials, the formulation, the packaging, the shelf life, the storage. If it was maintaining the same temperature, and if you have a higher margin of error, maybe you're not going to understand the difference. And in the end, you need I think where we're going is like in a few years from now, we're gonna see much more advanced the robotics in kitchen and the culinary skills. So these they have enough data and they have the right sensors and they will be able to interact lively with the product to give you the end result that you want because even the environmental moisture, the environmental temperature, the moisture inside, like the surface, there are so many things that you have to take into consideration. And I think what large companies are doing, maintaining this consistency is almost, is a very difficult task. You have a multi-global, fast consumer, moving goods, or a CPG serving almost the same product in different countries. This is a logistical hell. So only this part have the consistency on the first part is very difficult. Ensuring the consistency in the preparation, you can increase the margin of error, but if you don't have some high of standardization, I don't think there is any viable way of ensuring that if you cook it for 1 hour or 10 minutes, you're gonna have a perfect result.
Mhm.
Unfortunately.
Okay, and then in terms of kind of like a product fail, I was recently reading about, and if you know more about this or people listening, if I say this wrong, please like flame me. It's all good. So Mr. Beast and the guy, one of the Paul brothers, made a lunch snack, kind of like Lunchables, but I think it's called Lunchly or something. But one of the problems they kept having when I was reading about is that the way they were made, it kept having like moisture and stuff in there, or like the materials were in such a way where it kept having mold or like bad stuff that was happening. So if they used a system like yours in their process, they would know like based on these ingredients and stuff, the tolerances to package it right, so it wouldn't end up moldy so quickly or like have these type of issues.
Mhm. Of course, because this is an equation like that you will do more accurate prediction if you have a specific amount of water, a high water activity like the free water. If you have a high microbial load, depending on the ingredients, if you have a kind of normal pH values, you don't have very low, and you have a packaging that allows for oxidation, and if you leave it at in 36 degrees, that's a perfect case to create like your own culture of different microorganisms that will grow. And now, sometimes most food scientists are aware of this, but the amount of intrinsic and extrinsic factors and the post process it would take some time to see all the calculation and do the prediction Now, the AI and our solution takes that in consideration inherently from the ingredients, from the processing, from the packaging. Do you have a kind of a pasteurization at some point? Do you decrease the pH with citric acid or with lemon juice, or at some point do you inactivate the enzymes or whatever? So because it's a series of process, so the AI will take everything into consideration. What are the ingredients? What are potential pathogen organisms that you might have, like from E. coli, Salmonella, etc., Listeria. So, and then it will optimize, tell you, guys, if you leave it like this, you should eat it immediately, or you should, store it in an airtight container, or just freeze it. And this will allow you to have a shelf life of approximately 9 months, as an example. And after you open it, you have 3 days refrigerated. So all of these are part that are big saving time from food scientists. And of course, with the more data that we have, are going to increase overall the food security. Um,
Yeah.
and potentially decrease some of the recalls that we are food companies experiencing. But this sometimes it don't have to do with not knowing these things. This might have to do with something went wrong in the manufacturing process or in the supply chain, or somebody did something wrong, or somebody didn't do something correctly, and you might end up with not safe to consume products.
Yeah. And then another one of my follow-up questions is you mentioned breakthroughs. Um, I imagine so the burden to have a breakthrough with startups. I can imagine like companies, businesses, very very obvious the value of it going there. But from a startup where that's like where breakthroughs happen or you die, which I think that's a good motivator to get things done. I feel like something that what you're making would be like perfect for those types of people that are trying to develop something completely novel or new or go into a whole new market. Um, is this scalable in such a way where like even startups can use it? Like at a certain point, like there's a price point where you can only be SMBs or like enterprise on level up. But from is there like basically is there like a Slack version of this where there's like a free version or like a very very lower cost one so like startups could use it and have like lots of rapid breakthroughs with it?
Yeah, that's a great point, because I'm coming from the startup scenery, but I also have academic experience. And the reason, the innovation, why I started Proxy was because I wanted to help all these change makers. I want to help all these startups. They might have a novel microalgae, they might have new product, they might have a recipe from their grandma, which is amazing, or they might have a grain from a specific location. But having this idea or having this first recipe or formula to having fully commercialized product on the shelf is a very long way.
Hmm.
So I was thinking, how could we help all these startups? Now, at the same time, now we're not focusing purely on the smaller startups um, because of the price point of what you said, but we are working actively on the second quarter of 25, because we had smaller startups that they were interested in working with the platform to give, as you said, a lighter version where they can do whatever they want. And it will accelerate their efforts. And some of these companies, they need it even more than larger organizations, because they don't have um, they don't have the staff to do all these things. So they keep outsourcing the R&D, outsourcing the flavoring, outsourcing with the contract manufacturers, outsourcing the marketing, everything. So it's a good way, but sometimes they might want to have it in-house. So as for now, we work with a few startups, not any super small startups at the moment. Our goal is to help even the smaller startups after the Q2 of 25 to have a more affordable solution. Even though our solution is very affordable, and it costs less than what would cost you a full-time food scientist, to give you like a range. But now that you said that, other people that have been asking us are consumers.
Hmm.
Like people that are asking, like, hey, I started working out and I want to keep track of the proteins or specific zinc magnesium that they might get, or XYZ. Um, we don't focus yet on that, but this is pretty much on this similar discussion. How much lighter of the version could you create to help people with the dietary choices. And I think this will be more relevant in a few years from now, where we're gonna get much closer to the personalized nutrition era. People will do like genomic analysis. Now it's very affordable to do that. They will do microbiome analysis. They will have like some blood tests and some understanding of who they are, like a medical record, and then they will have specific wearables to keep track the activity, the calories, and they will be able to keep track of their nutrition and what they ate yesterday, today, and based on the activity, the specific aids, etc., etc., even their mood, they will have personalized nutrition. So the new ecosystem, to link it other than the startups with the consumer, people are keep outsourcing, especially in the Western generation, in the Western countries, keep outsourcing the food. People have less and less time to cook. We see the rise of air fryer because it was just a smaller oven that will save you some time. But I think we're going to get more involved inside the personalized nutrition, and this I think small startups will also play a role on how do you combine the logistics, who is going to deliver the food, who is going to prepare it, who is going to keep track of each individual, and AI will allow for scalable but customized, personalized solutions. And this is going to give us some better understanding of the relationship of health and nutrition, which is a little bit obscure because it's so hard to do clinical trials and just isolate the food components for a long time, etc., etc.
Yeah, I was just thinking about another use case is for people who have autism or on the spectrum, texture is a really big element of what they eat. And in fact, like they won't, some people won't even try new foods because they're concerned it won't be the right texture and stuff. So I could see like a technology like yours that could scan all the food lists that exist out there and then tell people like, hey, this is the texture you're gonna get. So if you like these three items, you can actually try all these other things and it'd probably be cool for you. And I could see someone using that and it'd be kind of nice because I have a friend who's on the spectrum and it is so difficult for her to go to a restaurant and be like, well, what am I gonna order? Chicken wings this whole time? Like I want to try other things, but it's just like the response to the texture and all these different elements is so massive. So I could see it also placing in places like that where like personalized nutrition, but also personalized nutrition for like people like that.
Yeah, of course. Like, now I was referring to the personalized nutrition because people want to eat healthy, and keep track of that. But of course, the personalized flavor, mouthfeel, organoleptic, sensorial component, of course, will play a role because people want to eat something that they enjoy, will make them look great and live forever. These are the three KPIs. So you cannot remove the first one. And other than the people that might be on spectrum, and we would be very, very happy to potentially help with these offerings. There are also people that they have from celiac disease, from specific like disease areas. We're already working with a few companies that they provide specialized meal offerings for groups that they might have a specific disease that doesn't allow them to eat whatever they want, and they have to optimize for a specific nutrient or avoid specific ingredients or nutrients altogether. So I think this is the beginning towards mass adoption of personalized nutrition. Um, so yeah, absolutely, this is an area that we are actively working on and interested, and we see that where the trend is going.
Yeah, I was just thinking there's like when you have cancer, you have different illnesses. There's stuff that they always recommend you eat to help like fight or combat these things. So but it's a bit ad hoc, the clinical trials and what have you. But I could see AI coming in here and really helping people because we already have the medicine. So then it's just like people always like knowing like what can they do. And so if it's nutrition, like they can control that, they can do that. They can't, outside of that, so like, they do their chemo and they do that on time. So I could see something like this being really empowering to people, whether it's illness or just like trying to be your fittest self, be like Brian Johnson out there. If you're listening, Brian, I hope you're doing well. And the all these different other things. So I see your technology. I see where it is right now. I can see all the different ways it can go, and that's kind of the fun part about being in a business like yours at the stage that you're in. It's like bountiful possibilities of opportunity to like affect people's lives for the better. We are this will go live in 2025. So is there anything in particular that you're excited for 2025? And it's okay if you just want to tease stuff, but like I always love hearing what people are excited about for the future. It can be personal too,
Uh,
if you want to avoid business.
well, most of my life is associated with business, so the most exciting things in my life have to do with Proxy.
Hmm.
So we are being developing for the last years a new module, a recipe generation module that has a new model of calculating the effects of various processing steps. This is an effort of, you know, many bright people from different fields, from mathematics, data science, food science, biotechnology, process engineering, personally so much work of mine that I have put in the last years. So this is something I'm super excited to, the release of this new module. And I think there are not many or any softwares that will be, or platforms in the world at the moment that will be similar to the first release of this beta. So this is definitely something that excites me. I'm also excited to continue some partnerships that we have made, and they will start in 25 in some product categories that I really enjoy. And I'm curious to see what will be the outcome. And just as a point on the previous to finalize the conversation about um, Ted Leonsi is my personal mentor, co-founder, the lead director at Proxy. We were talking about all these relationship about health and food, and he's involved in a company called Tempus, where in Tempus they do AI for drug discovery. So they've started with breast cancer type 2, and now they're expanding. So a lot of genomic analysis, a lot of data normalization, and they're trying to predict outcomes that might be useful for big um, pharmaceutical companies and biotech. And, we had this conversation about, he was telling me about someone from his family that he was suffering from Parkinson,
Hmm.
and they tried so many things. At some point, uh, he quit gluten as one of the options, and he had like a significant, improvement on the case by just having gluten. But this was something, but for his case, with the current medical records, was not as first suggestion.
Hmm.
After we keep track better of the outcome of specific nutritions, for specific foods, and health aspects, maybe in a few years, the doctor would tell him, avoid gluten, because maybe there is a kind of correlation. And, you know, if you think about it, every piece of you now and every piece of me and every piece of everybody that you know was at some point food. And most likely we're going to end up, food for something else. Just to highlight the importance of making the right choices, and, how sophisticated and delicate is our system, and how, have all these microbes inside us that help us digest. And then we have all these cells. And, you know, I don't think we sometimes we understand the phrase, you are what you eat. You're literally what you eat. And what am I going to eat is the most universal, frequently asked questions by anything. Even you're a fungi, a bacteria like a mammalian, a fish, everybody's been asking this question. So the compounding effect of having the right answers can have a significant effect on the overall health of a population, of a society. on the sustainability aspect, on our personal health, on our personal quality of life. So, what am I going to eat? It's the most. It's you know. It's a more serious questions that we should be asking ourselves as a society and as individuals.
Do you think like are some of these questions like how can you combat obesity? Like could we affect the food supply in such a way where we bring down the rates of it? I think it's still growing in the U.S. It's been like a year or two since I've looked at the rates, but I think obesity is still growing. Like it's like one nutritional issue in the U.S. China's obesity rates are growing as well, so they have that to look forward to. But there's like it's like different things that you can combat in the food area. What are some of the ones that you're thinking about or noodling around?
Well, the obesity, we're going to see a huge change with the diabetic drugs such as Ozempic. It was the first time that I could regulate other things, but to simplify the appetite. So it was the first thing that allowed many people to decrease some levels of obesity. I think drugs like this will be very popular. Drugs like supplements drugs, I don't know what will be the restriction, but I think these types of drugs will be kind of the first solutions that will affect the obesity rates for sure. And as a second ways where we come in, like the better understanding of what you eat, its availability, what you really need. And, we saw this big trend of fasting, intermittent fasting, like 16, 8 hours. And the results are like, most likely it works for most people, but not for all.
Mhm.
And if you take into consideration the variability between everyone on this planet, the different DNA heritage, the different habits, the different way of living, and their current specific uh, weight and all of these conditions, there is no way that you have horizontal solutions. So for the obesity, I think people will be better to understand to be more efficient with the calories. There are people that eat before they go to bed. That's most likely universally a bad thing to do. But there are people that's going to be worse for them. The same with the peak of glucose. There are some people that might be more sensitive in the peak when they consume products that have high sugar. So these people, some people, unfair or fair, they might be better eating a few more, sweets or desserts or grapes or things that are high in sugar than other people. So regarding the obesity, if you treat people as as adults that, and if you do that, this is going to be the result, and they really understand themselves. I think this is also going to help with the obesity. On top of that, better processing, better ingredients, uh, better formulations, through platforms like ours. All this will increase the decrease of the obesity, from my point of view, and also increase the health lifespan.
Is there a problem you're having or that you expect to have in 2025 that someone listening in could help out with? And you never, honestly, it's always surprising to me who reaches out and it's like, oh, I have a solution to this. So, what problem do you need help with?
So something that I'm really interested in, and I think would help us, and in general, it's going to be people that have ideas for the new LLMs. But now I'm not referring to the large language models. Now I'm referring to the new physical world model. What's going to be the next large physical model or the large chemistry model? Because the LLMs, they work great when they have to deal with anything language related,
Hmm.
and they can solve so many problems. And now we have the first reasoning, like from the O1, that you know people might say that it's still pattern, it's not reasoning, but it's definitely an improvement, and it can do some basic calculations. So the challenge is how do you create the new large language model, but for the physical. or the chemistry world, or even better for the both. This is something that we're closely looking at. Now I know that there are companies that they use video games, like and through the just through the motion to take a lot of data and through reinforcement learning to get to that. But I think to as we go towards the AGI, what is some of the things that are missing from the equation are the new physical world model. And today, actually, I saw that some universities, 20 different labs, and some other stakeholders, including universities, they combine the data to have a representation of the world. But if anyone out there is interested in discussing a little bit more of how the LLM type 2 focusing on some of the more physical or chemistry aspects would look like, would be more than happy to discuss.
Awesome. If there any like your top three books or any books that you've read, if you're not a book reader, it may be journal publications or newsletter that you enjoy.
So I read books, of course. And regarding startups, because we refer to startups, a book that I closely relate to, and it's quite popular, but it gives you a good understanding of what running a startups and growing this means is the hard things about hard things.
I've not read the
One
book.
other, yeah, it's from Horowitz. I think it's it was one of the books that I really liked. Um, The Business of Happiness is a book that is also close to my heart by Ted Leonsis because it shows how you can combine this align with being happy and aligning your ethical driving with what you want to do. Um, Another book that I'll try to give like a full spectrum of to understand people of the things that I'm reading. Um, One of my favorite Greek philosophers is Epicurus in Greek. So there is a book. I'm not sure if it's in English.
Epicurus. I know. Oh, okay. I thought you were trying. That was like I thought you were trying to say Epictetus, but there was like the Greek way of saying it. No, Epicurus is actually the right word. That tells you how little I know about Greek. I've never heard of
Yes.
this. Tell me about this.
So this person, it was in my sense, probably the most complete Greek philosopher. He was the first person to, start talking about real physics, about the explanation of natural effects. He was, you know, he could understand why we have eclipse and why with shadows and what are, you could see the first real scientific evidence-based approach in explaining things. He was a little bit after Democritus with the atom and all of these things. He was his approach in life. This guy, he was living his own life. He was focusing so much. He did this society that he named Kipos. In English means like the garden. And this was a place for everyone to go and exchange ideas and philosophize and think about. And it was one of the first back in the eights, a place where even slaves could go, a woman could go, which was not a standard thing back in the day. So he had this approach in life that friends matter, human relationships matter. Like don't judge people. Like give opportunities to everyone. Don't try to um, justify things by blaming or thanking your gods, whoever that is. Try, there is a layer behind that, even if there might be a god, but try to understand
Mhm.
um, your god. There is like the importance of societal structure. So this is definitely a philosopher. So what happened with Epicurus? He had like many people that were against him.
Hmm.
So they tried to say bad things about him. So throughout the history, they were saying that he's all about, eat as much as you can, like enjoy yourself, like kind of the negative ways. That's why, we also have Epicurean meals now, like the big meals. Even though Epicurus himself was very close to Stoicism, and this was like the very, very close, similar way of living in that. And Epicurus himself, he was talking about how you should a little bit be away from the pain, the body pain and the soul pain. So you also have like kind of the Buddhism things there. And he was talking about how you have the necessary and important needs, and how you have the not necessary. So he even went through the Maslow needs of the pyramids, and how you should focus on the first need. These are easy to satisfy and will make you happy, and how things such as which are not normal and such as like the willingness to grow to power, these are not satisfiable, and how you should stay away. So, as part of his teachings, he said many things about the holistic society and human relationships. For reasons that his opponents said many bad things about him, he was not very famous for thousands of years. And actually, 50 years ago, or some 100 years ago, or something like this, especially most recently, 40 or 50 years ago, people started reading his his some of his things, because there was a huge fire and many of his written things were lost, but some remained. And they started analyzing to see that it wasn't this person who was all about pleasure, it was actually the opposite. It was about how you should be in control of yourself, but also how you should be in harmony with your environment and surroundings. And if something is good, like just accept it. If something is bad, try to weigh bad from it. So if people will get more in the Epicurean lifestyle, he has this saying "Late viosas," and that's the way that you should live. Anyway, I'll pause here about Epicurus.
Which
But
no, go ahead. I was just gonna ask you which one because I pulled him up. And there's a bunch of books with his name on it. Is there one in particular you think captures what he's about?
so I haven't read any of his books in English. I've been reading them in Greek, and also play sometimes with the ancient Greek, which I cannot read, but understand, maybe like 40, 50%. The book, I would say to not go to Apada, is like the Epicurus, it's one of the books that I know. It's called Apada. Apada means like everything.
Mhm.
So it was of most of the things that he has collected from the saved material. For English books, I've read in. Let me search now to see if there is. Yeah, I haven't read any of this. I can not really recommend, but
No, I'll do a dive. I'll do a dive, and then if I read one by the time this is out, I'll ping it to the top of the comment so it's easy for people to read. All right, last question is well, okay. I got a bonus last question, then I'll go to the last question. What is your favorite word in Greek? Like everyone kind of like in English, everyone's kind of like a fun word or whatever. Is there a word in Greek that you enjoy saying? And if you can swear, I don't care if it's a swear word. Just say it and then tell me.
uh, it's not a word that I've been using a lot, but it's a word that I like saying, and it's called koborimosini.
Okay, what's it mean?
Koborimosini means like when like people they have like the thing above their head, they have a very big like braggartism. When
Hmm.
you brag, like we might say like oh, this actor um is koborimon.
Okay.
Not, I'm sure nobody have told you this word before, right?
No, that's why it's always fun when you talk to someone who knows another language. It's like there's a whole other world of colloquialisms that I'll never know. Okay, so then last question is where can people find you on the internet? Do you have a newsletter? What's the one best place to stay up to date with what you're working on?
LinkedIn, I think this is the social media I'm mostly active. So for anyone that they want to reach out to, feel free to send me a message. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions or discuss any ideas that you might have.
Sweet. I'll include it in the show notes then. Well then, thank you so much for being on my show today, sharing what you're working on, and getting people excited for the future of personalized food.
Thank you very much, Lowell, for the invitation. I enjoyed the conversation. It's gonna be 2025, but happy holidays for 2024. I was very happy to be here, and yeah, thank you for having me.